Do you want to maximize your life by doing 10 times less? That's right. You can actually get so much more out of your life by doing less, by simply mastering a skill set. And today, that's exactly what you're going to learn in this video, is the process that it takes to mastering a skill set, specifically the skill of selling. Now, my life was drastically changed when I learned how to sell. And we say all the time, like, master sales skills. But today I actually want to break down the story of how I became the person that mastered the skill of selling. It seems potentially really daunting and really heavy, but hopefully by the end of this video, you're going to see actually how simple it is. And I'm going to give you a very specific thing that's going to break down the skill set, going to help you understand it, and it's going to give you an actual tangible thing that you can use today in your communication, your content, and your conversations. Let's go. So when I first got out of college, I went into my very first job, which was ministry. And I honestly really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the people that I worked with. I enjoyed the work that I was doing. But the one thing that I absolutely despised was being told what to do. I think that's the case of every single entrepreneur. And I kept watching specific people online, specifically Facebook, this was a long time ago, and they were saying things like, oh, look at me. I just share my life and I post about products and I make a ton of money. I get to have freedom and control over my schedule. And I was watching that and I was like, wait a minute, that is totally something I could do. So I actually reached out to a girl that I kept watching on Facebook, and we met for coffee, and she told me that she was in network marketing. And believe it or not, this was back in 2000 and maybe 15, and I had never even heard of network marketing. I didn't even know what it was. And she was telling me about it, and she was like, yeah, all you have to do is sell this product. It's so easy. You just share your life. Watch that. That's the most important part. You just share your life. People get to know you and they buy from you and you have all this freedom. And I thought that is an absolute no-brainer. And so that's exactly what I did. I signed up to sell a product. It was a fitness product. I already love fitness. This is so easy. Oh my gosh, it's no problem. I had to work through some stuff of showing up, even though it was very uncomfortable and awkward, but I did. And I absolutely gave it my all. And I really believed, like, okay, I am, fun. I can talk to anybody. I can, make people laugh. This will be an absolute no-brainer. It'll be so easy. But it turns out it was way more challenging than I thought that it was. People were totally engaging with me. They were DMing me. They were commenting on my stuff, and it felt really good. The problem is that they were talking to me about things that was everything except for the actual thing that I was selling. And I just was like, man, I feel like I'm working so hard and it feels like progress, but it was false progress because I really wasn't making any money. Now, my dad, his name is Lloyd A., and he was watching me on Instagram. He was such a supportive dad and encouraged me, but he really was adamant about me learning how to sell. Now, this wasn't a new thing by any means. In fact, 2015, when I was trying my network marketing swing, was probably the 1,000th time I've heard him talk about sales skills. Ever since I entered into high school, that was kind of a message that he was delivering to myself and my sister. He would say things like, girls, I don't know what your future holds. I don't know who you're going to marry. I don't know, what your husband's going to end up doing. I don't know what your financial situation is going to end up being. But here's what I do know. If you girls can learn how to sell, you will be okay, no matter what. And he was building his business at the time, and he would say things like, I'm building this business and I don't just want to pass down wealth to you girls. I want to pass down the software that creates the wealth. And of course, when you're in high school, you think that your dad doesn't know anything. You think that he's really old and that he's dated, and you're like, Dad, that's what you do in the old days. That's not how things work anymore. And so I resisted. I am not kidding when I tell you he would play Dale Carnegie, not Dale Carnegie, he would play Dennis Waitley. Dale Carnegie was a sales trainer, but he would play Dennis Waitley. Actually, let me say that he would play, okay? I am not even kidding you when I say he would play Dennis Waitley, the book, The Psychology of Winning, I highly recommend. He would play that over the loudspeakers while we ate dinner. He would bring a projector, a little something that looks like this, right? A projector and a screen, and he would bring his computer and all these workbooks on our family vacations. The vacations that I would bring my boyfriends on, my boyfriend who's now my husband, but I would bring my boyfriend on a vacation and he would say, okay, everybody, before we can go out to enjoy the sun, we first must have a sales training session. He jammed it in my head. So when I started this network marketing situation, he would say things like, hey, like, I know this isn't the first time you've heard me say this, but you really should learn how to sell. In fact, Macy, I'm watching you on Instagram and I noticed you're coming off really ashamed to sell. I'd love to know if you've ever felt that way before, where you are almost like you're showing up, okay? You're posting every day, you're showing your face, but you're hiding your offer. You're hiding from selling, you're hiding from being direct. And I kind of said, maybe you're right, I'm not really sure, but I'll figure it out on my own, right? And I got to a point where my back was against the wall. I was newly married at the time, and I was either gonna have to make something work or go back to a job. And I really could not stand the thought of that. So my last, Hail Mary stitch effort was to actually go and learn sales skills from my dad. This is his dream come true, that I would actually submit to a process. And that's what's really important here, submit to a process. He would say, Macy, I would love to teach you, only under the condition that you go all in. He said, I don't want you questioning the process. I don't want you questioning the material. Don't question anything at all as you're learning the skill. He said, once you're done learning the skill, then please question it all, tweak a few things, play a little here, play a little there, but in the process, do not question it. And I said, yes, sir. And I think one of the biggest things that you can learn from this story right here is really understanding that necessity is the mother of mastery. When you really have no other choice, you're going to know how to master something real quick so that you can survive, quote unquote. And I'm really thankful for this process that I'm about to share with you, that when I look back, it's oftentimes you don't even see things come together until you look in the rearview mirror. And when I look in the rearview mirror, I see the process that I went through to really master these skills. And I'm telling you, I went all in for about 6 months and my life turned around after those 6 months. I had my first $10,000 month literally selling protein shakes. I had a fire in me like never before. My marriage became so much more there was a new intellectual connection that I didn't even know it could exist between us. Selling and learning how to sell genuinely changed my life. And I want to give you the process, but also a specific way to implement something so that you can allow the process to work on you. So the first thing is to really understand the basics. And I know that sounds simple, but I find that people resist this so much because it feels like they are going backwards. It feels like to them they're a senior in high school and they're asked to go back and sit in a kindergarten class, even though they've been through so much of school. And especially with communicating, because in communication, you're like, I've already learned how to talk. Why would I need to go back to kindergarten and learn the basics of communication when I'm talking to you right now? There's no need for that. But the truth is, all winners train like beginners. There's a basketball coach that's very well known named John Wooden, and the first thing that he does when a new team comes on his court is he teaches them all how to properly tie their shoes. And I have a quote right here. He says that he does this because little things make the big things happen. He says the understanding that the key to success lies in mastering the basics. And what's beautiful about mastering the basics is that once you have the foundation of the basics of communicating in terms of selling, everything else is easier. Everything else becomes more effective. And here's the best part. You don't even have to change what you're doing. You just do what you're already doing with a skill set. And that's what's so cool about not having to do more, but you actually strip down and do less. You just do what you're already doing so much better. Another cool thing about the basics, like Tiger Woods, I don't know if you know this, but the main way that he trains for golf is simply by training his core. That's what he does. I mean, when you think about Tiger Woods, you think he spends so much time actually golfing, when in reality, he spends so much time training the core of his body so that the core can do the golfing. Tom Brady, he spends at least minimum 60 minutes a day stretching. Stretching. That's all he does for at least an hour a day is stretching. The basics are key. Winners train like beginners. So one of the things I want to break down to you is a basic sales skill that really requires thinking about a lot so that it is wired in your brain. So oftentimes people hear about facts and benefits, facts and benefits, facts and benefits. And they're like, don't talk about the facts, just talk about the benefits. And while that is probably like a basic of sales skills, a better way to think about it is to actually take that fact, and then I want you to think, what's in it for them? And this is why. Here's how the brain works. So there's multiple parts of the brain, but there's two parts of the brain I want to share with you today. There's the neocortex. I'm going to put neocortex. And then there's the limbic part of the brain. The neocortex is in charge of the conscious part of the brain. It is in charge of language. So it has the capacity for language, and it is in charge of justifying decisions through logic. So there's conscious, it's in charge for language, and it justifies decisions through logic. And there's this limbic part of the brain that's in charge of the unconscious. It has no capacity for language and is in charge of making decisions through emotion. Okay, so I just really want you to look at this for a second. So you're telling me that the part of the brain that has capacity for language is not the part of the brain that makes decisions. What? You're telling me that when I am talking to people and people are talking to me back and I'm trying to have a conversation with them about buying through language, that's not even the part of the brain that I need to be talking to. I need to be talking to this subconscious brain that is full of emotion that doesn't even have words or can't even put words to what they're feeling. So let me ask you this. Have you ever been asked a question like, why do you love your children? And you can't even put words to why you love your children, but you just start crying. Have you ever done that before? That is because this limbic part of the brain is turning on. And the neocortex part of the brain, it really responds and kind of speaks in questions. But this part of the brain really speaks in stories. So the way you can think about these two parts is this is the facts part. This is the benefits part of the brain. So when people say in sales, like understanding the basics is know your facts, know your and know your benefits. Yes, that is basics, but do you really understand the weight of this and why this is so important to not just know, but to understand? Did you know that another word for understand is mastery? So when you are speaking to someone with language, thinking that you're helping them justify, you're actually potentially justifying them out of the decision. So how do you reconcile these two parts of the brain? Because you really need both, right? You make the decision emotionally, but you justify it logically. Well, you just always take that fact and connect it to what's in it for them. So I want you to think about, you have this radio station, WIIFT, what's in it for them? You have this radio station that's just always playing in your mind, and you're like, okay, what's in it for them? 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 And I want you to think about this constantly. And that goes to my second point right here, is to practice regularly. So it's very easy to think that you don't have time for something. I am the queen of feeling like I was telling my husband the other day, every single second of my life feels accounted for. Like it really feels like I don't have time to do a lot of things. So I'm so incredibly strict with my time. But this is what's so cool about sales skills is it's life skills. Every time you open your mouth, you're either selling or you're being sold. So you can practice this all the time, anytime, wherever, and however you are. In fact, I remember when I first started learning this, I would go grocery shopping and I would just hold a food in my hands, and I would think, okay, I would look at the ingredients, facts, hello. I'd look at the ingredients and I would connect it with a benefit. So I would look at it like a jar of salsa and I would say, okay, this is restaurant style salsa. What's in it for someone to have restaurant style salsa? And what you'll notice is that it really depends on who you're talking to. So I would think, okay, let's say I was talking to like a mom, like a young mom who's trying to make dinner all the time and she wants it to be really good and feel, like she put a lot of effort into her dish. I might say, this is restaurant style salsa so that you can have your Mexican mother-in-law over and feel really proud of the meal that you've made her. Okay, this is mild salsa. So this is mild salsa. What this means for you is that you can make a meal for your first date and you can know that it's not gonna be too spicy or it's not gonna be too sweet. It's gonna be the perfect amount of heat to make her really enjoy the meal. Okay, this is chunky salsa. What this means is that it's gonna be perfect for the crockpot chicken salsa that you make. And what ultimately that's gonna do, it's gonna make a meal that your kids are so excited to have and where they can create memories around the table. Like I was just creating all these different scenarios of what could be in it for them if they had this product, this offer, this jar of salsa, really anything and everything. You can practice all the time. Now, another thing, a little exercise that I will do in my own sales girl universe is, I know this you all are going to listen to this and you're going to be like, Macy is crazy. And I kind of am. But I love to, there's this one house in my neighborhood, okay? And it's just this gorgeous house and I love to drive by it. I love to walk by it. I love the character to it. I kind of know the family that lives in it. So I love the house, okay? Sometimes I will talk to somebody and I will just listen about them. I'll listen about their life. I'll listen about their family. I'll listen about kind of what they're looking for, what they enjoy. And I will think about if I were to sell that house to them, what would be in it for them? Okay, so it's the same house, hello. It's the same offer. You can think about this of your offer as well, by the way. But it's the same offer, it's the same house, but all these people that I talk to have different lives, right? So someone might have really young kids and they want their kids to have friends. One might have a husband that travels a lot and so they want safety. One might be a working mom and so she really desires to be close to her child so she can spend as little time as possible in the commute. So she really wants to feel like she's a good mom. So how can I take all of these people and frame this house? I don't change the house. I don't change the location. I don't change the amount of yard. I don't change the square foot. I don't change anything about the house, but I frame this house in the perfect way that makes it feel like a perfect home for them. Okay, so for example, let's say this one who wants her kids to have friends, I might actually do a little research in my neighborhood and just think, okay, are there actually a lot of kids here? How many kids are here? Could there be a way that I could frame this home as the perfect place for her kids to have friends? Well, I know that this home actually has a bonus room at the very, very tippy top of the house, and they can make that a really cool playroom. So let's say this is Susie. I might say, hey, Susie, this house, there's actually an extra fifth bonus room, and it actually could be a perfect room for you to host beautiful environments that little Jill is so excited to have people over at. In fact, I recently saw a picture where you could have these little cool beds for your daughters to have like fun sleepovers for a birthday party. I could see you having popcorn up there and have pizza and have a movie night. I can so picture your house being the house that your little Jill's friends love to come over to. Just a quick little connection of how Susie would want this house for her daughter Jill. I hope this is making sense, but this is kind of like a constant thing that is always happening in my mind. It's like, how can I frame one offer, one book, one product, one house, one car for all these different people based on their life and their circumstances by telling them what's in it for them. When you get really good at this is what we call having the sales girl software. When you have the sales girl software, you can really make any offer reflect something that makes other people see that it could fit and solve a problem that they don't even realize could be the thing that solves the problem. The third and final thing that you can do to really learn how to master a skill. So first we had understand the basics, number 1. Number 2 is to practice regularly. And number 3 is to apply, adapt, and adjust. Apply, adapt, and adjust. Apply, adapt, and adjust. So these 2 examples that I just gave you about the salsa and the house, those were kind of internal things that you're understanding and you're practicing in your own mind. But now that's not enough to master a skill. Of course, you have to apply and then adjust. Apply and then adjust. Apply and then adjust. And you really want to make sure that you are utilizing something called the learning loop, which is very simple. You know, when you're playing sports, and let's say you're playing golf, you can say, hey, I'm going to putt this ball 11 inches to the right. And that is a very measurable thing to adjust based on your performance. But with selling, it's a little bit more, there's a little bit more nuance to it, that it's not so 11 inches direct. You need a way more swings at the plate to know what to adjust. So the learning loop looks a little bit like this. First you perform, then you measure, then you modify, and then you perform again. I know it feels so simple, but that is the process of going through a learning loop so you can make these adjustments. So how do you do that in selling? Well, I'm gonna be honest, one of my favorite ways to master sales skills is actually through Instagram stories. I know, people have all these thoughts about Instagram stories because it feels like, some people will tell me it feels like a waste of time because not everybody sees the Instagram story. It goes away in 24 hours. You could just post that as a reel and it's on your feed forever. And I totally agree. Here's why I love Instagram stories. Number 1, it's so low risk. It goes away in 24 hours. It's not a big deal. Number 2, 0 barrier to entry. You don't need to know how to edit. You don't need to have an extra videographer. You don't need any of that. You just open your phone, turn and go. And number 3, the feedback. The measurement that you can do from the feedback that you get is life-changing. So I would actually take these skills that I learned from my dad. I would go to his office every single day. He would help me understand the skill, understand the basics, help me kind of practice with him, and then I would apply it on Instagram stories. So it would be really simple. Instead of sharing what I do, I would tell someone why they should do it. So I wouldn't say, I wake up at 5 a.m. to work out. I would say, when you wake up early at 5 a.m. to work out, that's your fact, you will be infused with endorphins that will give you energy for the whole day. Instead of, I work out early so that I can have energy. It really is just a small little shift in what someone gets out of what you're telling them to do, not what you tell them to do. So I know that maybe you've seen this before, maybe not, but we have this kind of visual that we like to show people. Is there's these 2 roads, right? There's the education road, or you can even call this the fact road, and then this is the selling road. The education road tells people what to do. Selling reminds people what they get out of what they do. So instead of, I'd rather you think about it like this. Don't think about, educate, sell, educate, sell, educate, sell. It's more of like, quick, tell them what to do. Remind them what they get out of what they do. I'm saying it slowly because I want you to emphasize what they get out of what they do so much more than telling them what to do. So you tell them what to do, remind them what they get out of what they do. Your emphasis is on that selling road. Now, this little connection right here is reminding them what's in it for them. That's what this connection is. So what I was selling them, the education part, was I was selling people to learn how to sell. You should 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 master sales skills. But I was playing with tons of different what they get out of what they do. And one of the things that I was playing with was when you learn sales skills, you become unrecognizable. When you learn sales skills, you become unrecognizable. When you learn sales skills, you become unrecognizable. But I spent way more time on describing unrecognizable. So I would practice telling stories like, just imagine, in 90 days, you show up to the holidays for Christmas and for Thanksgiving, and people look at you and they're like, who even are you? You've changed so much. Your confidence has just magnified. You seem so just like excited and enthusiastic for life. Girl, you got that new Louis Vuitton bag? You must be doing pretty well with all that money you got coming in. You become unrecognizable when you learn how to sell. And I remember I spent a good, 30 days just really teasing this out of what does it really mean to become unrecognizable. I describe it so specifically. I paint the vision for people. And to this day, this sales message of telling people that they become unrecognizable has been the most powerful message that has brought the most high quality, most transformative clients, because this is what they hung on to, not knowing how to sell, but the payoff of knowing how to sell. And when you do Instagram stories, what I would actually encourage you to do is take a payoff and just spend some time in that payoff and like play with all these different ways that you can describe the payoff for a good 30 days. And you'll see this feedback will start to come. People will message you, they'll have questions, they'll say, oh, that really resonated with me, or I don't know, that didn't really like resonate with me. I get what you're saying, but it wasn't really that helpful for me. It's all good. Data equals dollars. So get that feedback and make those adjustments. So how to master a skill. First, back up and learn the basics. All winners train like beginners. And then when you start to understand the basics, really start to practice. And you can practice in your own mind. The more that you practice, the more that you water a seed, the most beautiful plant will flourish. And lastly, apply. There is no such thing as like helpful information if you don't actually apply it. So apply it and adjust and get that feedback and get so excited to almost be in a dance with your message and the people that are receiving the message. If this was helpful, let me know in the comments, and I will see you in the next one.